So today is a bit of a different day for me. I am not driving to the office right now. I am driving to the airport and I'm going to visit a good friend of mine who's excited to spend some time with her. She's been going through a lot and sometimes you just need a friend, some company. I am processing a lot of things today. One of them is how to deal with self-doubt and how to deal with discouragement. And I think that a lot of people, more than you realize, struggle with self-doubt and discouragement. So I think when you're an entrepreneur, it's inevitable. I think a lot of people might assume that if they experience self-doubt and just doubt in general or discouragement, that maybe they're not cut out for this, or they start feeling like something's wrong with them, instead of seeing it as evidence that you are actually growing and moving in the right direction. And so what I mean by that is, if you never get to the end of yourself, like you don't have self-doubt because everything's working out, you don't have discouragement because everything's working out, I bet you're probably in a season where it's a season of rest, or it could be a season of complacency. There is a season for rest, regroup, healing, shoring up. So I'm not talking about that. If you're never getting outside of your comfort zone, then you would never have to deal with discouragement, or you would never have to deal with doubt. And that's the whole point of the comfort zone, is that it's comfortable. If you're staying in that comfort zone, then you're probably not experiencing this. So self-doubt and discouragement can be evidence that you're actually doing the right things, that you're actually growing and getting outside of your comfort zone. It's not always a sign that something is wrong. Too often we hit an obstacle, we have extreme disappointment, and we hear things like, well, maybe it's just not meant for me, or, oh, God's closing that door. I hear that one a lot. Like, no, that's not always what it is. It's actually that this is a natural part of building something, really anything meaningful. Number one, it's not a sign that something's wrong with you or something is wrong with what you're doing. In fact, it's probably the opposite of that. The second thing is, well, now how do we deal with it? I still deal with extreme bouts of, discouragement, disappointment. And I think one of the ways that I personally address this is I think back to all the things that I have been through. I think back, wow, well, this is a big problem, but at least it's not the problem I had from 15 years ago, or 10 years ago, or 5 years ago, or 2 years ago. We are never going to be rid of problems unless you live in a little bubble somewhere. I don't know. Tell me where you find life without problems. Leadership, business, you're literally being paid to solve problems for people. As long as my problems are changing and I'm solving a problem and then I get to move on to other problems, I see that as success. That's something I remind myself of, is where did I come from? Whatever it was, 18 years ago, I was being strangled in my kitchen. I could look at where I'm at now, and I've been through really hard times. I've been through times where I had $11 to last me 3 weeks of groceries, and I was going to get a bag of potatoes on sale, and I ate minute rice with soy sauce for a large portion of my early adult life. I think back to where have I come from? Are my problems progressing, I guess is a word. Another thing I do is I think about, what am I putting in my head and in my mind? And so for me, I love to say I'm optimistic, but that has been a learned focus for me. My kids used to joke around, our family, and I was no mom, and dad was yes dad. And sometimes they'd ask me things and I'd say no, and then I'd think about it and I'm like, why is it a no? It's interesting. I have a tendency towards the negative, even though I don't want to admit it. I think I am in a lot of ways now. I have learned to be, but it's not a natural bent in my mind. To deal with that, especially in my first year and a half in real estate. I remember listening to something positive constantly, because if it was like left to my own devices and my mind was allowed to wander, it would not wander to good places. It would wander to places that were not productive for me. I was brainwashing myself, or just like being proactive about putting in so that it didn't wander to somewhere negative. I still do that. In the morning, I listen to Brendon Burchard's Daily Fire. I listen to my Bible app. I listen to all things that are going to shore me up and encourage me. If I didn't do that, I would be, thoughts would be whirling around in my head that probably wouldn't be productive. I also have a journal practice where I dump my thoughts, many of which aren't the most positive thoughts, and then I come up with truths, I call it. Like, I call those thoughts, a lot of times they're not true, like they're lies or fears or insecurities that I have, things like that. I write them all out, and then I write a truth for each of them. And a lot of times those become my affirmations. I say affirmations. I say them out loud to myself. I say them in my head. I write them out. I think too many times we don't take agency over our mindset. And that's a problem when you're trying to do something that has an extremely high failure rate, which business and leadership does. I mean, so many people fail in business. So many businesses fail. And you can't afford to just be left to your own devices unless your own devices are maybe just a lot more positive than mine. The other thing I have learned over the years is I used to think that I loved mindset work and all this stuff, and so I'd really focus on it, and I wouldn't really focus on my health, my sleep, all the physical aspects of my health. I thought those are for losing weight and my body and what I look like, which yes, I care about to a degree, but I did not connect. I was trying to have a positive mindset with a really bad foundation. I was not setting myself up for success. So I talk about this all the time now because it was such a big aha for me. Wow, who knew when you sleep well and eat good food, exercise regularly, to get out, shift your energy, and hydrate and all the things, who knew that you would feel more positive? It's hard to feel good when your body is not feeling good, so you've got to support it. Physical health is a must. What are you doing to manage the inputs? Because there's enough, inputs that are not controllable. I can't control how people respond to me. I can't control what mood people are in. I can't control if people follow through on what they say. I can't control if I get sick. I can't control if other people get sick. I can't control a lot of things in life. I can control what I am putting into my mind. Just like I can control what I'm eating and my diet, I need to have a diet mentally, emotionally, that supports how I want to feel. Hanging around with a bunch of people who complain and whine and bitch and moan, listen to music and think about how freaking tired I am on the way to work. Like, why would I expect anything else but to have a mindset that struggles with self-doubt and with disappointment? The other big important thing is I focus on who I'm becoming and what the future will hold. I just know, because of maybe my spiritual beliefs, that my future is good. And I don't think that the God that I believe in is going to bring me this far to then let me completely collapse and make a horrible mess of my life, unless maybe I needed that to happen. I know that I can figure things out. I always have. I've been in way worse situations than I can find myself in here. I know that if I had to, I could figure almost anything out, especially with my husband and I together. I mean, we can figure stuff out. That's what we're good at, figuring it out. Keeping a focus on, wow, everything is happening for me. I have massive resilience because of my past and resourcefulness because of my past, and I know that I can figure it out. So you have to remind yourself of that. Last, that just came to me, you have to have a good support system. So there's times where I want to cry on the floor, and there's times where I have cried on the floor. I have to have people around me to support me. Luckily, I have a husband who does not partner with my disappointment and does not partner with my self-doubt and my wallowing. He's empathetic, but he calls me higher and reminds me of who I am and who we are, and that things are good. So I have an amazing support at home. I know not everyone has that. So if you don't, and in addition to, even if you do, you have to have other people that you can reach out to. Not the friends that you complain to, but you have to have people that you reach out to when you need to be lifted up. You have to find those people. If you do not have those people in your life, your number one mission should be to find them. Tell them what you need. I don't want you to listen to me. Like, let me just complain. Like, let me have my 5-minute funeral, but then I gotta move on. I need you to remind me that everything's gonna work out. Sometimes you just need that. Inputs, physical health, your support system, and then focus on the bigger picture, the future, who you're becoming, and look at disappointment and discouragement as a sign that you're probably doing something great. It just doesn't feel great in the moment, but it will. And you have to learn to just appreciate those seasons where it is a grind. And everyone that I respect, they've been through, shit creek, probably more than once. You can't have what they have without going through what they went through. And anyone who's trying to sell you on, the easy path or some shortcut, it's a lie. Be willing to get dirty, be willing to get messy, be willing to get scrappy, take care of yourself, get around some good people, and kick some ass today.